Hello, guys. Welcome back to English Learning Podcast. If you want to improve your English listening skills while also learning powerful, life-changing ideas from the world's best books, then you are in the perfect place. Because today, you are going to learn two things at the same time. First, you will discover the powerful lessons from one of the most fascinating psychology books ever written, Chatter by Ethan Kross. And second, while listening to this episode, you will naturally improve your English vocabulary, listening, pronunciation, and speaking confidence. So don't worry if you don't understand every single word. Just relax, keep listening, and enjoy the journey. Every time you listen again, your English will become a little better. So, if you're ready, take a deep breath, relax your mind, and let's begin our journey into one of the most powerful books on mastering the voice inside your head.
Chapter 1. Meet your invisible companion. Before we learn how to control our inner voice, we first need to understand something important. What exactly is this voice? And why do all human beings have it? Ethan Kross begins with a simple but fascinating idea. Every single day, your brain is talking, even when your mouth is completely silent. Right now, as you are listening to my voice, your brain is probably creating another conversation. Maybe you're thinking, this is interesting. Or, I already know this. Or maybe, can this really help me? That is your inner voice. Psychologists often call it self-talk. Self-talk simply means the conversation you have with yourself inside your own mind.
Now, many people believe talking to yourself is strange, but Ethan Kross explains something surprising. Healthy self-talk is actually one of the greatest abilities of the human brain. It helps us solve problems, it helps us plan for tomorrow, it helps us remember the past, it helps us imagine the future. Without this inner voice, you couldn't prepare for an interview. You couldn't practice a speech. You couldn't learn from your mistakes. In fact, you wouldn't even be able to read this sentence silently inside your head. Think about that for a moment. The same voice that creates your biggest worries is also the voice that helps you become a better person. So the voice itself is not the enemy. The real question is, why does something designed to help us sometimes become the biggest source of our stress?
Topic 2. When self-talk turns into chatter. The word chatter does not simply mean talking. In this book, chatter means negative mental noise that keeps repeating inside your mind. It is the moment when your thoughts stop helping you and start controlling you. Let's make it simple. Imagine that tomorrow you have an important interview. The night before, your brain starts talking. At first, it sounds helpful. What questions might they ask? What clothes should I wear? Maybe I should practice one more time. This is healthy self-talk. Your brain is preparing you. But after a while, something changes. What if I forget everything? What if they laugh at me? Maybe I'm not smart enough. Everyone else is probably better than me. Now your brain is no longer solving problems. It is creating them. That is chatter.
Why does our brain do this? This is a fascinating question. Why would our own brain create problems for us? According to Ethan Kross, our inner voice originally evolved to help us survive. Thousands of years ago, our ancestors had to think about danger all the time. A strange sound in the forest, a wild animal, a dangerous storm. Thinking ahead helped them stay alive. That survival system still exists today, but our world has changed. Instead of worrying about wild animals, we worry about emails, social media, relationships, money, our future, our appearance. The brain still reacts as if every problem is a life or death situation. That is why small mistakes sometimes feel enormous. The emotional magnifying glass. Think of chatter like a magnifying glass. A magnifying glass makes small objects appear much larger. Your negative thoughts work exactly the same way. Maybe someone doesn't reply to your message. Immediately, your brain says, "They're angry with me. I must have done something wrong. Maybe they don't like me anymore." Hours later, you discover that person's phone battery simply died. The problem was tiny, but your chatter made it look huge. This happens every single day. Not because people are weak, but because the human brain naturally fills empty spaces with stories. Unfortunately, those stories are often negative.
Let's imagine something very common. You post a photo on social media. Most people like it. Several friends leave kind comments. But one stranger writes, "This looks terrible." What happens next? Do you remember the 50 positive comments? Or do you spend the entire evening thinking about that one negative comment? Most people focus on the negative one. That is chatter. Your brain ignores dozens of positive experiences and keeps replaying one painful moment, like a broken record. What chatter does to your life? When chatter takes control, it doesn't only affect your thoughts, it changes your behavior. You stop taking risks. You delay important decisions. You avoid opportunities. You lose confidence. Sometimes, you even stop believing in yourself. The dangerous part is this: the voice sounds like you.
Topic 3. Distance yourself from your thoughts. One of the most powerful ideas in this entire book is called psychological distance. Let's make it simple. Psychological means related to your mind. Distance means creating space. So psychological distance means creating a little space between you and your emotions. Let me say that again. Instead of living inside your emotions, you learn to step back and look at them. Just like watching clouds move across the sky. The clouds are there, but you don't become the clouds. You simply watch them. Why distance works. Imagine you're watching a football match. From the stands, you can see the whole field. You notice where every player is moving. You understand the game clearly. Now imagine you're one of the players. You only see what's directly in front of you. Your vision becomes smaller. Your emotions become stronger. Life works the same way. When you're inside your problems, everything feels huge. When you step back, you begin to see the bigger picture. The magic of using your own name. Now, Ethan Kross shares one of the most fascinating discoveries in psychology. Most of us talk to ourselves like this. Why am I so nervous? Why can't I do this? Why do I always fail? Notice something? We always use the word I. But what if you changed that? Instead of saying, "Why am I nervous?" say, "Samir, you've prepared for this." Or, "Samir, what would you tell your best friend if he felt this way?" Something amazing happens. Your brain automatically creates a little emotional distance. Instead of feeling trapped inside the problem, you begin looking at yourself like a caring coach. Scientists call this technique distanced self-talk. It sounds simple, but research discussed in Chatter suggests it can reduce emotional intensity and help people think more clearly under stress. A real-life example. Imagine Emma is about to give a presentation. She feels terrified. Her hands are shaking. Her heart is beating fast. Inside her head, she keeps saying, "I'm going to embarrass myself. I can't do this. Everyone will judge me." The fear grows stronger. Now imagine Emma pauses. She takes one deep breath. Then she says, "Emma, you've practiced for this. Emma, just explain one idea at a time. Emma, you don't have to be perfect." Did the presentation suddenly become easy? No. But Emma's mind became calmer. And when your mind becomes calmer, your decisions become better. Imagine your best friend. Here's another exercise. Suppose your best friend calls you tonight. They say,
I failed my interview. I'm completely useless. Would you answer, yes, you're a failure? Of course not. You would probably say, one interview doesn't define your future. You learn something. You'll have another opportunity. Now ask yourself, why are you kinder to other people than you are to yourself? This is one of the biggest messages of this book. We often become our own harshest critic, but we don't have to. Topic 4. Stop reliving the same moment. One of the biggest reasons we suffer is not because of what happened. It's because we keep replaying what happened. Think about watching the same sad movie every single day. Would you become happier? Of course not. But surprisingly, many of us do exactly that inside our own minds. We replay old arguments, old failures, old disappointments, old regrets. Our body reacts as if the event is happening again, even though it happened months or even years ago. Your brain cannot always tell the difference. Here's something fascinating. When you remember an emotional experience, your brain often activates many of the same emotional systems that were active during the original event. That means every replay can bring back similar feelings. Imagine touching a fresh wound. Every time you touch it, it hurts again. Now imagine leaving it alone. Slowly, it begins to heal. Our emotional wounds work in a very similar way. When we constantly reopen them with endless replay, healing becomes much more difficult. A simple example. Imagine Alex gives a presentation at work. Everything goes well. People clap. His manager smiles, but during the presentation, he accidentally mispronounces one word. Nobody seems to care. In fact, most people don't even notice. But that night, Alex thinks, why did I say that? Everyone probably noticed. I sounded stupid. The next morning, he's still thinking about it. 3 days later, the same memory returns. One tiny mistake has become a giant problem inside his mind, not because of reality, but because of repetition, the story we tell ourselves. Ethan Kross explains something very important. Events don't create all of our suffering. The stories we tell ourselves about those events often create even more suffering. Let's make this simple. Imagine two friends failed the same driving test. The first person says, "I'm terrible at driving. I'll never pass. I'm a failure." The second person says, "I made mistakes today. Now I know what to improve. I'll practice again next week." Same event, different story, different future. Our minds don't just remember events, they interpret them. And those interpretations shape our emotions. The fly on the wall technique. Now, Ethan Kross introduces another practical tool. Imagine that you're a tiny fly sitting on the wall of the room. You're watching the situation from above. You see yourself, you see the other people, you hear the conversation, but you're no longer trapped inside it. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, if I were simply observing this situation, what would I notice? This small mental shift changes everything. Observers usually notice details that emotional people cannot see. Topic 5. Your environment shapes your thoughts. Take a moment and look around the room you're sitting in. Your desk, your chair, the window, the light, the sounds around you. Most people think these things have nothing to do with their emotions. But Ethan Kross explains that our surroundings quietly influence how we think and how we feel. Imagine trying to study in a room that's messy. Books are scattered everywhere. Your phone keeps buzzing. The television is playing in the background. Dirty dishes are sitting on the table. Even before you begin studying, your brain already feels overwhelmed. Now, imagine a different room. A clean desk, fresh air, a glass of water, A notebook, no unnecessary distractions. Suddenly, focusing feels much easier. The lesson is simple. Sometimes your mind isn't the problem. Sometimes your environment is feeding your chatter. The power of nature. Now, let's explore one of the most beautiful ideas in this book. Have you ever noticed something interesting? When you're walking through a peaceful park, or sitting beside a river, or watching the sunset, your worries often become quieter. Why does this happen? Because nature gently pulls your attention away from endless mental noise. It gives your brain a chance to rest. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack all day. Finally, someone helps you take it off. That's what nature often does for your mind. It doesn't erase your problems, but it gives your brain a break from carrying them every second. A simple example. Imagine you've had a terrible day. Your boss criticized your work, traffic was stressful, your phone won't stop ringing. When you get home, you continue thinking about everything that went wrong.
Now imagine instead that you decide to take a 20-minute walk in a quiet park. You hear birds singing. You notice the trees moving in the wind. You feel the fresh air on your face. Your problems haven't disappeared, but something inside you begins to slow down. Your breathing becomes calmer, your thoughts become softer, and suddenly, the same problems don't feel as impossible anymore. Why order creates peace. Here's another interesting idea. Have you ever cleaned your room and then noticed that your mind also felt cleaner? This isn't just your imagination. When we organize our physical space, we often create a sense of order inside our minds. Think of your room as a mirror. A peaceful environment often supports a peaceful mind. A chaotic environment can make chatter even louder. Of course, a clean room won't solve the problem, but it removes unnecessary stress that keeps your brain busy. Small changes outside can create meaningful changes inside.
Imagine Mia has an important job interview tomorrow. She feels nervous. Instead of staying awake until midnight worrying, she follows her evening ritual. She turns off her phone. She drinks a cup of herbal tea. She writes 3 things she's grateful for. She prepares her clothes. Then she reads for 15 minutes before sleeping. Did these actions guarantee success? No, but they helped calm the storm inside her mind. Sometimes, feeling in control begins with doing small things consistently. Create a place that helps you think. Imagine having one small corner in your home. No television, no social media, no distractions. Just a chair, a notebook, maybe a plant, maybe a lamp. Every time you sit there, your brain learns, this is my thinking place. Over time, your mind begins to associate that place with calmness and focus. Professional athletes have routines before competitions. Great writers have favorite places to write. Successful people often create environments that support the habits they want to build. You can do exactly the same. Your phone and chatter. Now let's talk about something almost everyone carries, a smartphone. Technology is wonderful. It helps us learn, it helps us communicate, but it can also feed our inner chatter. Imagine checking social media every 5 minutes. You compare yourself to other people. You see someone traveling, someone buying a new car, someone getting promoted. Without realizing it, your inner voice begins saying, why isn't my life like that? I'm falling behind. Everyone else seems happier. But remember, you're comparing your everyday life to someone else's highlight reel. That comparison is rarely fair. Sometimes, the healthiest thing you can do is simply put your phone down for a while and listen to your own life instead.
All right, my friends. Before we say goodbye,
let's take one final journey through everything we've learned together. Because knowledge becomes wisdom only when we remember it and apply it. So let's remember the most powerful lessons from chatter. Lesson 1. Your inner voice is a gift. At the beginning of this journey, we learned something surprising. Talking to yourself is not strange. Every human being has an inner voice. It helps us plan, it helps us solve problems, it helps us prepare for the future. The goal isn't to silence your inner voice. The goal is to learn how to use it wisely. Lesson 2. Chatter begins when thoughts control you. We also discovered the difference between thinking and overthinking. Healthy thinking leads to action. Chatter keeps you trapped in fear. It makes small problems look enormous. It tells stories that often aren't true. Remember, just because you think something doesn't mean it's true.
Lesson 3. Create psychological distance. Then we learned one of the most practical tools in the book. Step back from your emotions. Talk to yourself the way a wise coach would. Use your own name. Ask yourself, what advice would I give someone I love? Sometimes, one small change in perspective changes everything. Lesson 4. Stop replaying pain. We also discovered that suffering often grows because we replay painful memories again and again. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? Ask, what can I learn from this? Remember the powerful question, will this still matter 5 years from now? Many times, the answer will help your mind relax. Lesson 5, change your surroundings. We learned that our environment quietly shapes our environment. A peaceful room, a walk in nature, a simple daily ritual, less unnecessary distraction. These small changes create space for a calmer mind. Sometimes, changing your environment changes your thoughts.
Lesson 6. Choose conversations that heal. We also discovered that talking helps, but only when the conversation moves us toward understanding. The best people in your life don't simply repeat your fears. They help you see a bigger picture. And remember, be that person for someone else. Sometimes your calm words can become another person's strength. If you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend who's learning English and wants to build a stronger, calmer mind. In our next episode, we'll explore another life-changing book that will help you improve both your mindset and your English at the same time. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and remember, you cannot always control what happens around you, but you can learn to guide the voice inside you. Thank you so much for listening. Take care of yourself, keep practicing your English, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.